Hey there, folks. Welcome to Did You Pack Snacks? My name's Colin.
And I'm Meg.
And we are adults with 2 kids. And this is a podcast where we chat all things high, all things low, and the long miles in between. And this week's episode, we're coming to you live from Reykjavik, Iceland. Drum roll.
Woohoo!
Man, it feels good to be in Iceland.
It feels really good to be here. But I have a question for you.
What?
Before we get into the nitty-gritty of our time here, and we share all the things about Iceland and why we love this place so much, I wanted to ask how you're feeling, because if you've been following along, we came to Iceland from the Faroe Islands. So we've been traveling for a bit, and so I just wanted a little check-in, let the people know how you're feeling. Is it a smart move to go to 2 different countries back to back? Just tell the people what you think.
Well, if I'm being honest, tonight is our last night before we begin our long journey home. Mm-hmm. We came here via a round trip flight direct from New York to the Faroe Islands. We were on the very first flight from the US to the Faroe Islands. And then the only reason why this trip was so long, because initially on the day those tickets were released, I had bought the tickets, and the next flight home was 6 days later. So I was like, great, we'll be in the Faroe Islands for 6 days, we'll come home. And as soon as I bought those tickets, I know some of you will totally get this feeling. You're like, well, dang it, I'm spending all this money for 6 days?
Yeah, we got to stretch this out a little bit more.
Like, where else can I go? And so the next return flight to the US was like another... I don't know the math.
But another weekish.
They don't have daily flights.
Right.
And so we had to figure out, okay, if we're going to be in the Faroe Islands for this amount of time, where else could we go? And our options were either Oslo, Norway, or Reykjavik, Iceland.
Yeah, and we came to Iceland, which we'll get into that a little bit later, but we came here when Charlotte was 9 months old. So it was a familiar destination, but when we were passing through in the spring, we laid over here just for a few hours, and we both got this really nostalgic feeling that we were so sad we weren't leaving the airport. So when we were planning the Faroe Islands trip, it just seemed like, well, we need to go to Iceland, because remember that feeling that we had that we wanted to go back? So we did, and we've been here for some time. We've been living out of suitcases, and I'll just go ahead and say how I feel. I'm so thankful for the places that we've gotten to see, but I will say that it's a rather large commitment traveling in cold weather and going and living in a new Airbnb or hotel every night.
This is stay number 8 or 9.
Yeah.
And this is rental car number 2. This is like, I don't know how many miles we've put on the road, but we have.
We've done some miles. And when you're vacationing or going on an adventure somewhere cold, it just means that there are a lot of things. Jackets, hats, gloves, boots. Here we even brought the girls rain pants to keep them from getting wet. And so it's just kind of a commitment. It means that everywhere you go, all the suitcases get opened,
right?
Because there's all the things.
And parents, y'all feel me. Like, yes, we got to bring them, but guess what? We're also in charge of putting them on, keeping track of it. I mean, how many times have I ran back into the bathroom
to get Charlotte's hat?
Someone left a beanie, someone left some gloves. I mean, it's just a lot. Yeah. Hot, cold, suitcases. I mean, you can't see this in the frame because, we've made this kind of minimal. But if you were in this room, boy, it's chaos.
We've got a lot of stuff out. And I think that that's pretty much just what I'm feeling, is I feel a little fatigued from the opening and closing of the suitcase and all the cold weather gear.
Yeah.
But I will say, if you were like, well, Megan, would you rather have just gone to the Faroe Islands and then gone straight back to the States? I would say no, I don't wish that.
Rather be tired and chaotic.
I'd rather it be chaotic, and I'd feel a little tired.
Very tired.
Than miss out on the trip and the memories we've made. But, my real is that I'm feeling tired and I'm ready to get home and wash all these clothes.
Right. But folks, if you're tuning into this for the first time and you clicked on this because you saw Iceland, Like, this is going to be an episode about Iceland.
Yes.
We're going to tell you how to get here with 2 kids and just go nuts and see all the beautiful things you see online. We're going to talk about us getting on a ferry to, apparently it's like marketed as Iceland's hidden gem. The Westman Islands is not too far from here, where we saw the largest puffin colony. And y'all, this is the first time like we've actually seen puffins like this.
Like so close you could touch them.
It is wild. Iceland is just this huge national park. It feels like we're in a Yosemite or a Grand Canyon, and everyone's just here and they got their adventure clothes on that they just bought. Like, you know, I was in line today in the city and I looked down and you can hear, I mean, I know they're Americans, and all their hiking boots were like brand stinking new. Like there were no stains on them. So like everyone's just here to like experience the magic of Iceland. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about all of that. But before that, a little housekeeping, huh, Meg?
Sure. What you got?
Well, you know, I've been doing a little bit of analysis and a little bit of data on our research on our data. And I just wanted to say, if y'all have been listening to this podcast week in, week out, we want to thank you. This started off as an experiment. I thought we were going to do 6 episodes, and here we are recording episode 17.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
We're committed.
Right.
I'm so proud of us.
I mean, Spotify even told us we're now eligible to record ads and monetize this podcast, which I feel like I don't want to do that yet.
No.
Because it just still feels like this very personal thing.
Yeah, but it is like a little bit of a gold star that they're like, you're committed. We see you.
We see you week in and week out, recording in your guest bedroom. But here we are in a beautiful apartment in Reykjavik. But all that to say, I do want to say that according to our data, 80% of you are listening via Apple Podcasts. And about 80% as well of you are the ladies. So Megan, take it away.
So where my ladies at? I need y'all to help us out. And when you're done listening to this week's episode, or right now, just hit pause. We'd love for you to leave a 5-star review, and we'd love for you to screenshot wherever you're listening, share it on your Insta stories, text it to a friend. We'd love for you to share the podcast too. So if you would do that for us, it would be a huge favor in helping more people find out about our podcast. Because, I mean, if Spotify says that we're legit and we're having a good time, then we want to keep this rolling, and we want more people to join us in this love of talking about all things travel and exploring and bringing our kids along. So those things would mean the world if you could do them for us.
And to the 20%, my dudes, my dads, even though a lot of people are tuning in just to hear Megan's voice, I'm here too. Maybe you're friends with me. Maybe we were even friends in college, and that's why you're listening to this. Either way, your review and your support also means a lot. We're here to unite moms and dads in travel, and we have a lot of travel ahead of us. We're on a mission to visit 50 countries, and we just hit the 30th country mark, and we have a list of all the places that we are still gonna go to. I don't know when we'll make it to 50. Maybe we'll be old. Maybe we'll be grandparents by then.
Gosh, I hope not.
But I am gonna keep making this podcast because it is fun.
We're taking this podcast to the grave.
To the grave.
Speaking of...
Bury me in this cheap Amazon microphone.
Speaking of the grave, there was this aged filter on TikTok, and I just, did it to myself.
When? Like while I was putting the kids to bed?
You were putting the girls to bed. And I just I don't know. I saw her and I kind of wanted to take a screenshot so I could compare, but people say it's really accurate. And I'm like, what a unique moment that I got to see myself like 40, 50 years from now.
You getting emotional?
No, I mean, I thought she was still really cute.
That's great.
Her eyes were pretty tired looking, but it was so strange.
You know why it's tired?
Why? Because I traveled too much.
Because it's seen a lot of good things.
Oh, that's sweet. But you know what I was going to say?
What?
It's just like that lady that was looking back at me on that filter.
She was like, dude, invest in some makeup.
No, she's like, did you pack snacks this week?
What?
Like she's still recording. She's still promoting the podcast.
Well, that's great.
Yep.
I did one of those filters a long time ago. I think, was it also TikTok or Snapchat?
You looked I don't use Snapchat, so
Oh,
it must have
wow.
been TikTok.
Did that? I just aged myself. But yeah, I looked just like my Chinese uncle, and I thought that was the strangest thing. Like, I don't consider myself looking Chinese. My mom is, but when I saw that filter, I'm like, maybe I'm starting this way. I'm starting mixed, and then as I'm getting older, I just become the old Asian man I've always been inside my heart.
Yeah, that's probably true.
And I do not mind.
Okay, enough about old age.
Okay.
Let's talk about all things Iceland. Tell the people how we got here.
Okay, we got here on flight RC. No, I'm just kidding. We got here on an hour flight away from the Faroe Islands. It was super chill. It was really sad. I didn't feel sad leaving Faroe Islands because I knew we were going to spend one more day there, which is tomorrow. I'm so pumped. But we got to Iceland and we got to the airport, and it just hits you, that immediate feeling, especially coming from the Faroes. I was a little bit shocked by how many people there were.
Yeah, the Faroe Islands definitely feel remote, laid back, chill. And when we were there, not a lot of people were there.
And I'll take this time on this episode to also still encourage you to go to Faroe Islands because it is amazing.
Yeah, but Iceland felt more busy. As soon as we got off the airplane, there were tour groups and people with signs, and there were just a lot of people. And so
a lot of Americans.
Yeah.
And a lot of direct flights from the US. Like at baggage claim, it was just like, Denver, go to this one. Minneapolis, go to this baggage claim. I was like, what?
I mean, Iceland is doing it right. They know if they get people here, that their tourism industry is just booming.
Right. I mean, it's so booming that I went and got a hot dog and asked where I could get a SIM card. And the lady selling hot dogs sold SIM cards.
Yeah, which is another great tip if you're traveling internationally. Just get yourself a local SIM card I guess you could just tell your carrier in the States to give you international data.
Or use Google Fi. That's great too.
Right. Some way just to be able to use your phone, because that has been so handy when you have to look up restaurants or places to go.
I actually have never bought another SIM card in another country before.
But you did in the Faroe Islands.
I did. That was my first time.
Oh.
And I was like, why haven't I done this ever? Did you know that we traveled to almost 20 countries and I never bought a SIM card once and only relied on my T-Mobile 3G?
And downloading the map from Google Maps.
Downloading the offline map and getting Wi-Fi everywhere. So it is possible. But now I'm living that 5G life anywhere, and I'm realizing how easy and seamless it was.
Right.
And I can make phone calls to order pizza. I was like, why haven't I done this?
Okay, so we got everything we needed from the airport. We went to our first Airbnb. Mm-hmm. We checked in. We basically just slept that day.
Yeah.
And we were just it was a rest day. We didn't really accomplish much.
No.
So then we headed after. We woke up, and what did we do? We took the girls. We wanted to do some things that were more adventurous because the last time we were here, we had a baby, and we did a lot of driving around the whole island.
We did I think it's called the Ring Road.
Right.
Where we drove from Reykjavik to Reykjavik.
And we went around the whole island, which is super cool and a great way to spend time. I would say if you did that, you need 8 to 10 days in order to make the whole loop and not feel like you're just spending the entire day in the car.
But so worth it.
So worth it.
Yeah.
This time we just wanted to hit some fun spots. We didn't really have the incentive or the desire to do the whole island again. Mm-mm. So anyway, first day, we were excited to just hit the ground running. Colin found, or did I find it?
No, you did.
I found
it. This time we really wanted to dip in some hot springs because I was like, our kids are older.
Right.
And I want to do the cool thing in Iceland to do is just go on a hike and find some hot water and jump in it.
So we did. We found one that wasn't too far, maybe an hour from where we were staying. And we brought the girls, we put on their bathing suits before we went. And it was really fun. We got there, and you never know in Iceland, there are a lot of people here doing all the tourist things, so I knew that we wouldn't be alone. Yeah. But I also didn't want to show up to this tiny hot springs with 50 people. And we didn't. We lucked out. There were a handful of people there. Some people were leaving right as we arrived. And, you always feel that, or I do, that feeling when you descend upon a group of quiet adults, and you're not bringing quiet adults in your group. You're bringing chaotic children.
Right.
That I felt a little bad initially. And then I had to remind myself, I have as much permission to be here as anybody else.
Right.
And yeah, so that's just an encouragement to anybody watching or listening. We have a right to be there too. Our kids have a right to be there too. And nobody was annoyed. Those are just things that kind of roll in my head sometimes and make me feel like I have to tell my kids, to be quiet. But we were literally in the highlands of Iceland with no one around except for like 4 or 5 people that were hanging out in the hot pools. Nobody cared. Everybody was just having the best time.
And Meg, someone told this to me on the flight here, but like, that's a sensible adult thing to feel and think, and it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
So we got there, and after I quieted my mind and let the girls just be girls, we were maybe 2 of 5 people hanging out here, and it was so cool. There were 3 little hot springs. We can leave the link in the show notes.
Yeah.
If you're headed there, I don't know how to pronounce the springs.
I mean, if you're driving there right now and you want to make sure it sounds like Hrunalaug. Don't check the spelling. And I might be off, but it starts with an H and it ends with the aug. Hrunalaug.
But it's really cute. It has this little, cottage, small looking cottage.
A Viking cottage
In front of one of the hot springs, and then 2 larger ones. It was so beautiful. And so we hung out there, and then we ended up chatting with another couple that was visiting from
a sweet old couple from the Netherlands. They rented a 4x4 and were doing the ring road. And we were like, man, I want to grow up and be just like you.
Yeah, they said that they have kids our age and grandkids our girls' age. So they were really fun to talk to.
These are grandparents, yeah.
Yeah, they were
so
fun
all y'all grandparents out there, y'all need to come to Iceland for real.
Right. But that was just such a good start to our morning. I think it was such a win. The girls loved it. The water was actually warm.
Yeah.
And it was just so beautiful.
I could have stayed there for more
time.
I
know. We wanted to cram some things in. So I think we probably stayed 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah. Somewhere around that. And but I say I wish we spent more time there because our next stops, to me, didn't feel as fun.
Right. So we drove from there to go to what do you say?
A geyser, Megan.
A geyser.
Yes. Because we are in the land of the fire and ice.
Right. So we drove to some more popular spots. So, we went to where they have, active geysers. And as soon as we pulled up, there were, 20 tour buses and huge crowds of people.
But here's a note on that. The only reason we got there or we chose that spot is because they had restaurants that I knew had chicken nuggets, had chicken tenders, had fries, and a latte machine.
So it was a good stop. It was a
trade-off.
It was a 2-in-1. And, we are taking opportunities to show our girls things for the first time. So maybe it's not a place that we would choose to go, but we did get to have cool conversations with the girls when they saw, boiling water coming out of the ground.
Yeah.
So I thought that was still educational, a little
sweet.
check mark.
We went to, I think, the largest waterfall in Iceland, which again, there's like 30 tour buses and tourists from everywhere, which was fine. But the waterfall was still beautiful. We recreated our old photos we took with Charlotte. And then it was time to head back to our Airbnb to get all dolled up because guess what? The Mukris haven't spent money on an actual photo shoot since our kids were like 2 and 1.
Yeah, and I want to say one more thing before we chat about the photo shoot.
Oh, okay.
We're like nagging on tour buses right now, but I just want to say that beautiful places are popular because they're really beautiful.
Yeah.
And so we're not saying that we don't, if tourists go there, we're above that. No, we're totally not. We go to all those places. I think that we had just done them before, that going the second time to show our girls was like, okay, cool.
Right,
but I'm still glad that we went. Yeah. And, all the places that a tour bus takes somebody, we're also going to see them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not a slam. It was just very different from our remote hot springs morning to like basically showing up to what felt like a mall-like crowd. Right. It was just a huge, drastic comparison.
Right.
But yes, then we got back. We were
go there.
We were kind of in a rush to get ready because a photographer that I follow online, Lindsay Roman,
Oh, shout out to Lindsay.
I've always appreciated and admired her photography. She does a lot of couple shoots and destination weddings, and she's just really great. And she randomly shared that she was going to be in Iceland the same days that we were here. And I thought, well, that seems like fate. We have to do that.
It was destiny. It was meant to
destiny. So we picked a place to meet her that happened to be a small little hike with a cute little waterfall as a backdrop.
Kvernufos.
Again.
I'm just gonna. It sounds like that.
It sounds like
Kvernufos.
Maybe when you're. Yeah, we'll leave it in the show notes. I'll just say that.
It's by Skogafoss.
It's right by Skogafoss. Which again, if you've never been, you're like, what's Skogafoss?
Another waterfall. The most beautiful waterfall you'll ever be at.
So we met Lindsay, and I was a little nervous. You guys know, if you've had a family photo shoot done or just professional photos done in general, that there's the stress that happens before the trip that we've mentioned on previous episodes of what are we going to wear. And then there's the stress of like getting ready to go. And then it's the execution.
Yeah.
Am I going to be awkward? Is it awkward going to be okay?
Well, you're missing the part where all our photo shoot clothes were in a separate packing cube that we were not
untouched.
We were not allowed to touch or wear prior to said shoot.
And for good reason, because the day after, or the day that Charlotte wore the jeans that we took photos in, she now has 2 muddy knees on them. They would not have lasted.
I mean, she was crawling on the ground chasing sheep, and yeah.
But the experience was really fun. And I guess that's all we really have to say about that. It was a fun experience. Yeah. Lindsay was awesome.
And I think it made it like special. Now we'll have these photos in a destination that we love. And so I think it's actually a good idea that if you're going to somewhere special, like schedule like a photo shoot, even if it's like a quick session, like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, get a local photographer who knows the place. You might even learn more about the place and get to meet an actual local. In our case, Lindsay lives in Florida, so not really. But you'll have these photos to like look back on.
Yeah, I can't wait to see them.
That's not just like selfies that you get someone in your family to take. So,
right. I'm excited. And you get to be in them because so many of the photos that we have of our family, Colin's not in them. Yeah. Because, and don't get on me. I take the camera and try to include you. But then when you're editing the photos, you're always like, man, that was like an okay angle, Meg.
Well, the composition there.
Except I took my best photo of my life at our next destination. Yeah. So let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So the next day we went to the Westman Islands, which we have never been before. Megan said earlier in the podcast, we were in Iceland for a layover. And at our gate, they had a huge sign that said, "Visit Iceland's hidden gem, the Westman Islands." And it said, it includes the largest puffin colony in Iceland. And I was like, I have never seen a puffin before. What is a puffin colony? I want to go to the Westman Islands. And turns out, it's a 2-hour drive from the city and a 30-minute ferry ride. And it is a town that you can stay at with beautiful scenery, puffin colonies, boat tours, restaurants, hotels. It is a whole thing.
The best meal of the last however many days we've been traveling happened on the Westman Islands.
Yeah. And that wasn't even like the nice restaurant.
No,
it was
but it
like
was incredible.
The most convenient one next to the ferry.
And they were the only place that I've found that serves decaf coffee.
What is that about Europe? Come on, y'all.
They're not interested
in
decaf.
Coffee or nothing. Why decaf?
Okay, so we took the ferry ride over, and I will say it was a little bit choppy.
It was choppy. We were warned that a storm was going to come.
Yeah, and so the ferry ride was a little choppy. Nobody in our family got sick yet.
Not on the way there. But you could just tell that something was a-coming. That the storm was not so happy. So we get to the Westman Islands, and I just tell Colin, I'm a little bit of an anticipator. I'm like, okay, we're going to eat, but then we need to go. No, you said we're not eating.
Oh, we're not eating.
No,
we're just going to go straight to the puffins.
Take me to the puffins.
Right, because I just saw the clouds and I thought, you know what? If the rain comes, we're going to miss our chance.
Did y'all know that moms can tell weather better than dads? Just fun fact.
I just think it's an anticipation thing. It's not that I'm better than you are. I'm just always thinking 5 steps ahead, and I didn't want to miss out. So I was like, let's go check that off our list first. So we did.
I mean, I think you have a radar on a lot of things. I just have a radar for food.
You do have a good food radar.
In that moment, I'm glad I just trusted your gut, and I said, I can eat later.
I can eat later.
I trusted my animal radar though, because I was like, okay, puffins do go above food. Okay, let's go. So we drove literally from the moment we came off the ferry. It is a 10-minute drive. Mm-hmm. They even say you don't really need a car on the Westman Islands, which you kind of don't need. People normally go by foot. A lot of backpackers do that. They stay in their hostel or a hotel, and you can get on a bus to where the puffins are.
Right.
Literally on Google Maps, it says Puffin Lookout. And you can't miss it.
Right. So we got there, we got out of the car, and it was a little bit windy. You know, anytime you're on the coast by the cliffs, it's a little bit windy. And that made me a little anxious as a mom, not going to lie.
It's actually a lot windy.
It was a lot windy. And so we just had to be mindful of where we were walking to make sure that the girls weren't very close to the edge.
Because puffins, you know, they love to burrow, you know,
on the literal cliff.
On the side of these giant cliffs.
But we came over the ridge and started walking down the hill just a little bit. And if you listen to our Faroe Islands podcast, we saw a handful of puffins, and we took one picture of one where we zoomed in to get the picture, and then if you zoomed in on the zoom in, you could make out that it was a puffin. And
it was looking at me.
And we celebrated that. Liv got a puffin stuffy.
I mean, I bought this cheap zoom lens I bought long time ago, and I was like, wow. This is the reason why I have this lens, to take this. If this is blurry photo is all I have, I'm happy.
We saw them, we celebrated it, checked it off. So then we come over, you know, now we're in the Westman Islands. We walk over the little hill to go back down. We see just in the distance the cliff. And then all of a sudden, as you get a little bit closer, you see like hundreds of puffins on the cliffside, on the hill even. Just so many of them. And we start wigging out. You know, I can't believe it. Colin can't believe it.
I've never used the term wigging out before, but I'm wigging out with you.
You were wigging. Liv said, Mom, I think I can cry. There's so many. And you know, we've just instilled in them this desire for like the hunt of finding animals in the wild. Well,
because at this point, we have been looking for a decent puffin encounter for more than a week.
True. So when we all saw them, the girls and I sat down. Colin started taking photos. It just felt like we honestly won the lottery, because you just can't guarantee a moment like that.
Well, and then an American tourist said, if you go over there's way more.
Right. So then we stood up and we walked over to the other side, and there were about 3 times as many over there. And the trail that we were walking on, we weren't just like aimlessly walking on a cliff. There was a proper trail. And so we followed the trail, and the trail got us even closer to some puffins. So we sat down again.
The puffins were like walking on the trail.
Right.
Yeah.
Or their burrows were like alongside the trail. And so if you were still long enough, you'd see a puffin kind of come out of its burrow to fly to go get some fish. So we sat down, and without even a zoom, they were just right in front of us.
I mean, I think we got as close to like 8 feet to one of them.
Right. Any closer and they'd fly away. We tried.
Right.
But it was so cool. It was such a memorable experience, and something that was just so unique to see so many. And we sat there for a long time just watching them. It
was as if like the hills, someone had spilled Oreos on it. It was just green hills dotted with black and white dots.
Right.
And I'm talking thousands of them.
So I couldn't believe it, because when we were in the Faroe Islands, not to keep referencing or comparing, but we saw somebody that was local, and she was just letting us know that there are a large amount of puffins that can be seen in the Faroes in the summer, but that it had gotten too cold and most of them had left. And that's why we were only seeing a handful. And so I'm just thinking, well, Iceland's colder than the Faroe Islands.
Right.
And so I just assumed that meant that we missed this window too.
Yeah.
But boy, was I wrong.
Boy.
And I'm so glad that I was wrong.
The weather
because
fooled you.
It was so cool. And then we read a bunch of puffin facts for the kids. We learned all about them.
Tell us some puffin facts, Megan.
Well, we learned that they mate for life, which isn't that so cute?
Wow. Although they don't spend their time together though.
No. So they only come to land during mating season. So, then they have their baby and their baby matures. They have
their one puffling.
They have one, and the puffling matures around 30 to 45 days.
Dang, you got specific.
Right. So they stay, for a few months. Mm-hmm. And then once the puffling is old enough, the entire family goes out to sea, and not necessarily together, but the mom and dad will come back to the same burrow on that little cliffside year after year to have another puffling together. Wow. And when they're gone from land, during the rest of the year when they're not raising babies, they live on the ocean.
Which is wild.
They don't go to land, or rarely go to land. When they're just chilling during the day, they're just sitting on the ocean, on the water.
And they can swim down to 60 meters.
60 meters down.
Oh, I threw some facts back at you.
60 meters down to catch a fish, and then they just chill on the water.
Which is insane.
It just blew my mind because they're such tiny birds.
And their holes are like have you ever seen a rat hole?
Yeah, they're so small.
I mean, but it's like a meter deep, which a meter is. If you're watching this on YouTube, this is a meter.
Yeah, and they dig it.
From my shoulder to my fingers.
Right in front of my face.
Yeah.
And they dig it with their beak and their feet. They're just really cute.
Oh, tell us about the color of the beak. Last fact
was apparently they shed their outer beak. So the super colorful, vibrant orange beak that they have is to... how would you say?
To attract?
To attract a mate. Mm-hmm. And then after that season is over, they shed that beak and grow a new one.
That's insane.
But it sheds, and there's a smaller beak on the inside. So it's not like they're ever beakless. Gosh, somebody listening is like, this is why you don't run...
A puffin expert out there
you
is
don't run a science
they
podcast.
They are not coming on National Geographic. Stick to your snack packing.
I really think we should stop with the puffin facts because maybe that's not what we're experts at. But I will
Let's
say...
just talk about how cute they are.
We learned a lot about them, and they're so stinking cute.
And there's in person, I mean, come on, y'all. Their colors are so vibrant, and they look like, they are so cute in person. It's insane.
And this is where I got the best photo of my life. I don't usually take pictures. I take pictures of Colin and the girls, but he's the one with the artist angle. He's just a professional.
The technical know-how, the keen sense of composition.
Yeah, I'm not a photographer.
The editing finesse.
All those things.
Yeah.
But Colin was taking all these pictures, and I just said, man, I want a moment, because I was just in mom mode. He was taking pictures.
You were in deep mom mode, and I was in la la land.
Right. And then I said, can we switch?
You were like, your exact words were, Colin, you are right now, you are artist Colin 90%, and you are 10% dad. I need you to up your dad a little bit. We are on the side of a cliff.
Yeah. And so then he decided to take the girls a little bit higher away from the cliff's edge, and he gave me the camera, and he was like, you go get closer. You go be creative.
Yeah, I was like, take the zoom lens. It's so therapeutic. And it was actually cool. I was just, playing silly games with the girls up there, but Megan was like, you just dove all in.
Yeah, it was so fun. And I ended up...
And for a girl that was scared of heights and 2 minutes ago so stressed out, you went down the cliffs.
Well, I'm not scared of heights for myself.
Right.
I don't trust my kids around cliffs.
I don't trust my kids with a lot of things.
Right. So anyway, once the kids were removed and a little bit higher, I felt myself, able to enjoy the moment more, which I'm really glad we got to trade off so that we both could feel that.
Parenting hack trade.
Yeah. And then I scooted, as far down as I felt like I could. And I got the most beautiful picture, if I do say so myself.
We'll show it right here. Exhibit A.
Boom.
Exhibit maybe one more.
Boom. And I got this picture that I'm super proud of this little puffin that was hanging out right next to me. And it was just the best.
Yeah. And and the energy of that time went more calm.
Right.
And then after that, it was all right, let's go eat. And so we did.
And then as we were eating, this is where the story gets a little drama.
For those of you who get nauseous, you can forward.
Well, we basically just got a notification. Why are we talking like that?
I don't know. We sat down to enjoy a great meal. There was this Indian chef that had turned this restaurant upside down. Every dish had an Indian flair. We were enjoying a nice meal. I looked down at my phone. I got an email from the ferry company.
that was basically like, hey, anybody who has plans to leave tomorrow, no, you don't. We're not guaranteeing any ferry rides back to the location where we came from. They said that might not happen because this storm is going to mess a bunch of things up. If you can leave as soon as possible, that would be ideal. Or if you can't leave tonight, you can leave tomorrow, but we might take you on a 3-hour ferry ride somewhere else because that's the only way that we're going to be able to navigate the stormy seas.
And we're not going to get into nautical science here because this is not that podcast.
Right.
Why does it take 3 hours to go back another route? I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like in my brain, I was like, isn't a 30-minute ferry ride easier than a 3-hour one? Whatever. Those were our choices.
It's a lot of ferry gas.
And we just were like, you know what? We came here to see the puffins. Because of Megan.
We're happy.
Because of Megan having her weather anticipation, we had to check that moment off.
Yeah, and because of your photog skills, moment remembered.
Yeah, I was just winning that day.
Yeah.
And we decided to cancel our plans and go ahead and head back to mainland that night.
Yeah.
Because we didn't want to be stuck there because there was a chance that we were going to miss most of the next day if we were just hanging out on the Westman Islands in the storm.
And I was a little bummed, we did have a hotel on the island and that we had to cancel. We lost some money, but then they also understood. They're like, oh, yeah, you should leave. I'll give you some money back. We're just so kind.
So kind.
But I am pretty bummed because another big reason why to go to the Westman Islands around this time of year, August, let's just say August, is that you can rescue baby puffins.
Yeah, sometimes they get lost in town. They wander away from the cliff. And so if you find a baby puffin walking around a residential area,
You're encouraged
to capture it. They provide little cardboard boxes for you to keep them in overnight. And then come sunrise in the morning, you go to the puffin edge and you release the puffin back into the ocean.
And this is like a thing that like kids do and people do. And even on the ferry ride, what you see on the TV is like a how to rescue a puffin.
Yeah.
So like this is definitely like a community thing. And I was super pumped to take part in that. But there was a big storm and I didn't want to be stuck on the Westman Islands.
And we weren't going to go out looking for pufflings in the middle of a rainstorm.
Right, which it was a crazy storm.
So we get back on the ferry and this time's a little different than the way there because that boat is like really rocking.
It was wigging out.
I mean, I was watching the horizon in the window and it would go way up to the top of the window and then a second later the horizon would disappear.
Right.
And it was just, people that were sitting and looking out the window just kept saying, did you see that?
Well, every time a big wave, all the teenagers would be like, ooh. And that was not helping me.
That was not. And Colin gets...
Let's pause for a second. For those of you who get nauseous, can y'all just tell me like how you get through life? Because, sometimes I go to run on a treadmill. I get nauseous.
A threadmill?
Treadmill?
Yeah, you said threadmill.
I was trying to be American and enunciate my words and I got it wrong. Threadmill. Sometimes I get nauseous. Sometimes I go down and tie my shoes too fast. I stand up. I get nauseous. So imagine on this ferry ride, I had bought these like C-bands from Target to help me out. Did not work. When I take Dramamine, I just end up feeling terrible all day. Can someone tell me what to do?
Well, on this flight, so then on this ferry, we don't have to go into details. Colin got sick, but you bounced back pretty quick.
Yeah, remember that restaurant with Indian flair? All it.
Oh my gosh, no. So after the ferry ride, we were thankful to be back on the main island. We checked into our Airbnb. We stopped at a grocery store, which... Eating in Iceland is really expensive. So a lot of our meals have been kind of gathering groceries from grocery stores and going back to our Airbnbs and cooking a meal. But we ended up booking last minute this cute little cabin that was really affordable. It's so wild.
Well, it was the only one on booking.com that started with the number 2. Yeah. Everything else had even 4 digits on it.
Yeah. So luckily we found an affordable place since we had to make plans last minute. We made dinner and we fell asleep.
We fell asleep and just heard it rain all night long.
Yeah.
There had so much rain, it even like tried to creep in our front door. Like our front door was pretty much battered.
which leads us to yesterday, right?
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to say about Iceland, if you're listening, from our trip here before with just Charlotte, like we said, she was 9 months old, to now traveling with 2 kids that are basically 5 and 7. It's really an easy place to navigate with kids. You know, some cons would be that restaurants are expensive. You need to budget for that.
Yeah.
Or get Airbnbs that have kitchens and kind of do the grocery thing. We met another family that
Can we get kind of specific on numbers?
Sure.
Like anticipate meals costing $16 or $20 a person. Just the entree.
If you're eating out.
Yeah.
They can be, and that's for fish and chips.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily for something nice. It's just kind of, and it's because there aren't a lot of restaurants. So you get to a little town and then there's maybe an hour or 2 drive before you get to another town. And so in a town, you might have 4 restaurants, you might have 3 restaurants. And so they just can. And so they do.
Right.
But you can stop at a grocery store, and groceries are more expensive here than in the States. But you can get things like pasta, or we got salad and chicken that was already cooked. And I don't know, we've kind of just made these really simple meals that have been good enough.
Yeah.
You can get hot dogs. I mean, think of what you need in a grocery store. They have it.
You're good. Yeah.
But it's a little bit more affordable to eat if you go that route.
Yeah.
But anyway, the great things about coming here with kids are that there are so many remote things that you can do, you know, hikes, hiking on a glacier, swimming between tectonic plates. But then there are also so many kid-friendly things that you can do and so many beautiful things that are within walking distance from your car.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we did on this next day that we're going to share with you.
Yeah.
There are beautiful waterfalls, easy hikes, even our hot springs, or visiting the black sand beach, or if you drove up to the
lighthouse,
the lagoon, what's it called?
Well, it sounds like Jokusarlon. Again, don't quote me on anything. Iceland, I'm so sorry. Icelandic people, I'm so sorry, okay? I just said it. Jokusarlon.
But if you come here with kids, there are all these beautiful places that are promoted and that you see and you're like, wow, that is so epic, are very, very extremely accessible without going on these massive, crazy hikes or doing anything that feels dangerous.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I loved about it when we came the first time with a little baby. And one of the things I loved about it now, because, you know, we stopped like 5 times.
Yeah.
And, you know, we'd get out of the car to see something and we weren't exhausted because we just had to walk a little bit and there was the beautiful thing. Yeah. And so I think that's what makes Iceland really special. And then a second thing is everywhere we went, within minutes, our kids they look at the beautiful thing and then they go off and they start playing in rocks with sand, building things out of grass. Literally every place we stopped. Within minutes, they
Seriously.
were just getting dirty, climbing, adventuring.
There were always sheep to run around with. There was always horses to feed. Like literally, this country is covered in horses.
And I just think it's a really unique place to let kids be kids because, you know, us grown-ups may be going to see the beautiful thing. You know, Iceland's really unique, holds a lot of natural beauty, but everywhere we went just felt really kid friendly, you know, minus the cliffs. You got to hold their hands. Sure. But once you leave the cliffs, everywhere else just feels like you could let your kids run up and down and they're going to have a ball. And so I really appreciate that about our time here.
And that's another thing too about budgeting. Like your budget will just be for food and lodging. Your activities can almost be free. I mean, we didn't spend anything activity-wise. Like, we saw the largest puffin colony in Iceland for free on what felt like a private tour. It was just us and 70,000 puffins. We went to all these waterfalls for free. Yeah,
we went to the black sand beach, which is really beautiful. It has those really photographed...
the basalt columns.
Yeah, that are there, that also are in Northern Ireland.
Or a lot of places with volcanic activity.
Oh, that's true.
Right. If you want to get a visual of the black sand beach, my parents, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. In Frozen 2, you know when Elsa is like trying to get to Atahallen And she's like getting on, you know what I'm talking about. It was even in the trailers where she finally meets the horse and they get to whatever, show yourself, da-da-da, we all cry. That's the black sand beach.
Yeah, Colin was hyping the girls up when we were going there. He was like, this is where Elsa was going into the ocean.
And Charlotte's like, guys, that Elsa's not real.
Yeah, and then Liv said, are you going to promise me there are no snow monsters?
No snow monsters.
No snow giants or something. Anyway, we went to the black sand beach. One thing I will note about that, it was beautiful. We also met this really cool family from Switzerland.
Oh, guys, come on. We met them because our kids were all being kids.
Right.
You know, our kids had found they had found rocks to play with, okay? And so did their kids. And so we just stood next to each other taking pictures of our kids.
And then we started talking, found out they were from Switzerland, and then they mentioned that they had families staying in their Airbnb.
Our guests are in, exploring the mountains. I said, what do you mean?
So then she showed us a picture, or we looked them up right there. They own a schoolhouse in Switzerland, and they've converted the bottom layer or the bottom floor into an Airbnb. And she was just saying anyway, she basically sold us on coming to Switzerland. I think in our minds, we've always heard that it was crazy expensive, but they were saying that Iceland's more expensive.
Right. I was like, Switzerland, what are you doing here? Like, they're doing the whole ring road, adventure, which I'm like, yes, go for it. But then, they said, we went and got groceries here and it costs more than what we normally spend, in Switzerland. And they live an hour outside of Zurich. And I'm like, wait.
I mean, as soon as they started talking, as soon as they said they had an Airbnb, Colin pulled out his phone, pulled up the app, found them, created a new wish list so we wouldn't forget, and was just asking them all of these questions because it is somewhere that we'd love to go. And so it was really cool because we got to ask them a lot of questions about when was a good time to visit. And it's always more fun visiting a place when you know you're going to be received by a really friendly family.
Right.
And so that connection just felt special and is something that we love doing.
I'm getting giddy right now just thinking about it. But I used to be the guy if you asked me a couple of days ago if I'll ever make it to Switzerland, I said maybe when we're old and we have some money in the bank.
But now he's like,
now
we're going.
I'm going to Switzerland and nothing's going to stop me. I want to ride some trains. I want to swim in some mountain lakes. I want to do all the things. Who cares if I'm eating McDonald's? But I heard McDonald's is actually pretty expensive there. Who cares if I'm eating, bread and turkey?
Who cares?
Yeah.
Well, back to Iceland.
Okay.
That was a little Switzerland plug, but ultimately just to plug on how cool it is to network while you're traveling. Because if you love it and then you meet other people while you're doing the thing that you love, that means that you get to connect over something that's shared. Yeah. And so meeting families while we're traveling is so much fun because we connect over living this experience while our kids are running wild on the black sand beach. Yeah,
it's like when we're traveling and we see other people doing the things that we're doing, we're like kindred spirits. Oh, you're doing the same thing we are too, Yeah, it was really cool. Yeah. So we left the beach and we stopped at a couple lookouts. We stopped at a lighthouse and then we ended up at what I would say is one of the most beautiful waterfalls ever, Skogafos. And it was cool because it was raining all day, but every time we got somewhere, the rain stopped. Right. It was kind of comical.
It felt like we were winning the lottery. We just drive in the rain and then we'd get there. Oh, we stopped at a glacier.
Oh, yeah, we did.
And then we got to the waterfall.
Yeah.
And when we
just
got
casually, we stopped at a glacier.
Right.
Again, free.
And we got to the waterfall and the sun came out and there was this beautiful rainbow and the girls were just having so much fun. Yeah. I don't know. It just felt like a really full day, but a really great day.
Man, we got to our Airbnb here in Reykjavik at 9 p.m. Yeah. Everything was closed, but boy, was it just the most full, wholesome day. And I think for families that are thinking about coming here, that will be your day. You will be tired. You may be soaking wet. Your kids' clothes may be dirty, but you would have just not been stressed about train schedules or bus rides or I don't know, the things that a lot, like, you don't have to plan that much.
Yeah, this is a car country, meaning that like you get a rental car. Everything that you need for your kids stays in the car with you everywhere you go.
Right. And your car is going to be messy. You're going to have snacks everywhere.
But you have everything that you need with you.
Yeah.
And so you can stop when you have to. You can change clothes if you need to.
Yeah.
So it's just been the most fun. And I'm so glad that we got to bring our girls here. Liv was joking a few times, you know, when we'd go to these places that we'd brought Charlotte to, and we'd show Charlotte a picture like, hey, you know, you took this picture with me the last time we were here.
Yeah.
So when we were at one of the waterfalls, Liv said, I want a picture with just me, because Charlotte has pictures with just her. So I thought that was really cute that she got to own some of these memories too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am returning home with a full heart. We leave tomorrow.
Yeah.
We fly back to the Faroes for one day, which also feels like a treat because I was really sad to leave.
Yeah.
And so we get this extra 24 hours to just go back to our favorite hotel, maybe go back downtown. Charlotte like got a little sheepdog stuffed animal.
Okay,
None of you care.
None of you care about pickles.
But she lost it. So I'm going to surprise her by doing the parent thing and buying a new one and then being like, I found it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm excited to spend a day there. And then we did, I'm telling you, you guys are like, what?
End this podcast now.
And I am. After our day there, we're flying back to New York and then eventually the next day flying to Greenville.
Yeah.
And
which I'm excited to be back in some t-shirt and shorts weather.
yeah. And just clothes that smell clean.
Yeah.
You know, it's been some time.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's been a great adventure. We've
Right.
made a lot of memories. We're going to be sharing more of our itinerary and some visuals over on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok.
We have not even hit the tip of the iceberg. This is the tip of the tip of all the things that we're going to be sharing. We are going to just load it up with Faroe Islands and Iceland content. We cannot wait to share all this.
Yeah, and if you are following along and you have any questions, feel free to send us a DM. We're not experts, but we have, you know,
Nor can we pronounce anything.
Right, but we've lived this experience. We've visited these places, and we'd love to pass along any helpful information that we can. And that's just ultimately the goal, is sharing what we can so that you feel confident in bringing your family on adventures like this.
Yeah, and I think I'm happy to once again say to the world, and as I've said many, many years now, and still continue to say, Iceland is still a 10 out of 10. Bring your family here. Go on that long, messy, dirty, filled with laughter and adventure road trip
You're going to love it.
That you've dreamed about. This is the place.
This is the place. All right. I think that's it. We did it.
All right. So from Iceland, we say bye to you. Don't forget to pack snacks. We'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.